to part 3, the final part of the Angry Birds timeline, until the full recap anyway. This time we're going to go over everything that happens after Angry Birds Space, in the classic universe at least, because we're starting during Angry Birds Space, with the birth of Silver. Now, the fourth egg might suggest that Silver is just a bird who was in a secret fourth egg somewhere. But I think there's more to the story than that. I think Silver was another genetic experiment. I mean, she clearly has pig-like features, and you don't just get that from raising someone, right? No, it actually has to come from their genetics. I think Silver was a bird born with pig DNA, so that she listened to King Pig. However, upon her first mission to try and steal the eggs, she found out that, oh hey, birds are actually kind of cool. After socializing with Matilda, Hal, and Stella, who were most likely there protecting the eggs. And thus, Silver is redeemed. And once the birds return home from Angry Birds Space, that's when Angry Birds 2 begins. Now, as mentioned before, my first part of the timeline, I've seen a lot of Angry Birds timelines prior to this. And another thing a lot of them have in common is they put Transformers before Angry Birds 2. Which, I mean, I can see why they do that. As Silver is not in the comics, and a lot of people read the comic rather than the game. However, there is a lot more evidence to suggest that Angry Birds 2 actually takes place before Angry Birds Transformers. First of all, the comic. Yes, Silver does not appear in it, but neither does Matilda. So there's a good chance that she could just be, raising Silver, while there's some downtime between the action with the birds and the pigs and all that. Not to mention that both Matilda and Silver were added later on in Angry Birds Transformers, so there's the game. Anyway, more evidence suggesting this. You're telling me that all birds did with the Transformers technology was make a bunch of rockets in your ship? I mean, that rocket clearly has a plunger at the top of it. I don't think you'd need Transformers technology, stuff like that. Supposedly it upgraded Pig City with new technology, according to the timelines I've looked at, but is that really the case? Think about it, the birds were in space for a long time, and the pigs were just raising Silver instead of stealing the birds' eggs. Meaning, they had a lot of time to upgrade Pig City without the birds constantly destroying it. Bit weird, in my opinion. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Let's not forget that Angry Birds 2 doesn't have a proper ending. It just kind of ends right there. Right at the King Pig level. My theory? Because Angry Birds 2 doesn't have a proper ending. Because that's directly when the egg spark falls onto the Earth. It's right after Angry Birds 2. Now before we move on to Angry Birds Transformers, there is one more thing I'd like to discuss. And that's the fact that I believe Leonard actually dies in battle during Angry Birds 2. How do we know this? Well, look at Angry Birds Reloaded Leonard. In that game, whenever he gets hit, he has himself a corpse sprite. However, Leonard in Angry Birds 2 just pops. It is very strange and a bit of a continuity error, unless you consider that Angry Birds Reloaded is one of the first games of the timeline ending, but Stu is clearly one of the last. So it's a bit. It does make a whole lot of sense to land Redine battle, especially since he's probably weakened due to the exile from Big City. Anyway, now we move on to Angry Transformers. The plot of the game is pretty simple. Basically, the X-Pac lands on Earth and turns the birds and pigs into Angry Transformers characters. It also turns the eggs into robots called Eggbots, which start transformerizing everything, and the birds and pigs have to team up together to stop it. Now, I do have a bit of a confession to make. I've never actually read the comics. I've not owned them, never seen them in full, so I don't know the whole story behind them, but I'm sure that no matter what happens, stories still pretty much ends the same way. With the eggs somehow getting defeated, and the world returning to normal. Leading directly into Angry Birds' friends. Now, why, you may ask? Well, I think that after the Transformers event, the birds and pigs end up somehow becoming friends, due to them teaming up or whatever. And because of this, they decide to do a tournament every once in a while, where the birds beat up the pigs purely for sport. Now, one of the strangest additions to Angry Birds Friends is Silver's lab. It doesn't make any sense. Silver's not supposed to be smart in the classic universe, and she's not even playable in the game, so why is this even here? Well, I have a theory. What if, for the Angry Birds Friends tournaments, Silver started a lab with Professor Pig, creating power-ups for the birds to use? It would make sense, in a way. It also explains where she is during this time. I don't really have an explanation for Melody and Transformers or Friends right now, but I'm personally waiting for Rovio to do something about that. So they did say she'll be in more games. Now, with all that being said, what about slingshot stories? It's clearly a part of clearly said it's part of the classic universe on their website, so where does this take place? Well, I have a simple explanation for that. The characters we see here are not the Angry Birds characters we've been following throughout this entire timeline. No. Instead, they're just the game sprites. Think of it like Toy Story, where the game sprite of Red is different from the character of Red. Similar to how the character of Woody or Buzz Lightyear is different from the toy Woody and Buzz Lightyear. And the place where the Piggy Tales episodes take place? Yeah, that's just the sprite sheet itself. So, pretty simple explanation, I'd say. And with all that being said, that is the end of the timeline for now, until the full recap. That's the end of the entire timeline. And next week is the full recap, as I mentioned prior. Thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you next week for the final full timeline. Unless Rory decides to change everything again, which, they're good on doing. I'm still going to be uploading the full timeline nonetheless. Anyway,